And this is what your fingers do when you cross a string. You have to, I mean, your arm is also doing something, moving, but if you don't include the fingers, you won't be able to get the correct bow path. And by bow path I mean a perpendicular path to the string. I'll show you that in a second. And that affects the scratchiness. If we hit another string with the wrong angle, you won't get a good sound. So let me show you. So I'm going to play from G to D. And the fingers, because they're small muscles, they help us time the slur as well. Otherwise, say if I don't use my fingers, you get more of a thud crossing, because the arm is really, these are the big heavy muscles. Okay, that was with very neutral, my fingers weren't moving at all, that was a neutral bow slur. Here is if I don't use my fingers but I use my wrist, that helps too, but it's not as good as using the fingers too. See that? So that's just using my wrist, flapping like that with a wrist. So you have arm, you have wrist, and you have fingers. You want to use all three. But in order to use the finger flexing, the finger flexing means you're kind of you have like a neutral position, a curled up position, and even a long position. So to go to a lower string, you might be at neutral and you go long. From D to A, to go to an upper string, you curl up your fingers. And as soon as you get to this new string, you go back to the neutral. So just a method of getting there. Okay, now, I'm also not doing this. Trying to do a crooked bow path. So bow path is, I think we talked about in the two-handed bow. It's keeping a perpendicular bow. Bow is always perpendicular to whatever string you're playing, and this is really not obvious. This took me years to get to even understand what people were talking about. I can show you something to kind of prove it. What it is. If you I have two bows here, so say I have one bow on just on top of the C string with the correct perpendicular path, and the other one on the A string. Okay, and they're both at the frog, and that's what it looks like. How different the paths are. And now I'm keeping this one on the C, and now one is on the D, and I'm moving the D one to G. So even the two strings right next to each other, look how different those paths are. If I put them at the tips, it's still the same. You just see it from the other side. So that's G, D, A. Okay, so what this means is that, say you're at the tip on the A string, your arm is up here. If you're at the tip on the C string, your arm is way down here. Okay, so that's why it's really important to know what the path is. And I think the best way to do it is to try to do the two-handed bowing. And notice if you did it with one hand, if your bow path is incorrect, this is what happens. The bow will skate to either the bridge or to the fingerboard. If the bow doesn't skate that way or this way, then it's correct, parallel, perpendicular path. What was I going to say? Old age brain. It's gone. Okay. Maybe that's enough for one video.